in the spring, I was interviewed for an Edutopia article about loose parts play in preschool. Now, as I explained to her, loose parts play at Wildwood Nature School is a lot of using natural materials. We use leaves, we use helicopter seeds, we dig in the dirt, and yes, we do use sticks. And this brought up a question from her. Do you ever have to intervene when children are not playing appropriately with the sticks? And she gave an example. And she said, like, for example, when children are using the sticks as guns. Hello, I am Nicole Dravilis-Ravel, and this is Wildwood Teaching. And today I'm tackling it. I am tackling the big, fraught issue of pretend weapon play in preschool. And I know that this is a topic that makes a lot of adults uncomfortable, right? And is something that we find difficult to deal with. There are a lot of preschools that outright ban any sort of weapon play. And I can completely understand this, right? We all know the problems with gun violence in our society here in the United States, and the outside world worries us as adults. And so we naturally want to protect the children in our care. And my answer, however, when I was being interviewed was, well, of course, there are times for safety reasons that I have to intervene with children with stick play. But I don't find gunplay in itself inappropriate uses of sticks. So we're going to look through it as a couple of lenses. So the first lens that we want to look through always when we're working with preschoolers is, what is developmentally appropriate? And here I think we need to take a step back and look at what the children are doing through a child's viewpoint and not from our adult experience. And the truth is that most preschoolers know that they do not have an actual gun in their hands. They are engaging in a form of pretend play for all of the reasons that preschoolers engage in any sort of pretend play. They are trying on different roles. They may be trying to feel powerful, whether that is feeling powerful because they are taking on the role of the good guy, the police officer, right? Or just the one who goes after the monsters or goes after the sharks. Or they are trying to gain power over something that might feel scary to them, right? Maybe they heard the news. Maybe they are not as unaware of the outside world as we hope they are. And by owning something, right, by practicing it, by trying on, they are in essence attempting to gain control over it and make sense of it, right? Pretend play is somewhat how children make sense of the world around them. And in my context, right, where I am in a semi-rural area, I have a lot of children whose parents hunt. And so they are exposed to this facet of gun use. And they will go hunting in the forest because they have seen their parents do it and they are role playing. And we need to be aware that there is zero research that links pretend gunplay in preschool to later perpetuation of gun violence. And in fact, there's a lot of research out there that shows the importance of pretend play in early childhood, that it helps children with language and communication skills, that it helps them develop imagination and creativity, that this is pretend play is often when children are negotiating, right? Who's going to be what and take on what role? And as our pretend play, as that story that we're developing in our pretend play develops, there's also that negotiation. What's going to happen next? And do I agree with everybody I'm playing with? And where are we going to take this story? And if I don't agree, how do I resolve that conflict? How do I solve problems through playing? Oh no, oh no, here I am playing and a monster has appeared, and now I have to solve that problem with whatever I have available to me to solve that problem. And I witnessed this. I have a group of boys that love to pretend. There's a kind of a log that is partially hollowed out, that the whole group can sit in it at a time. It's very large. And so we have a group of boys that very often pretend that this log is a boat, and they are either the ship captains or the pirates. And this is their form of storytelling. And oftentimes the shape of their stick determines what it's going to be in their story. So they have turned the sticks into phones. They have turned them into fishing spears. They have turned them into spoons where they stir their fish as they're cooking them. And yes, they turn them into harpoons and guns that they are using to protect their boats, to spear the bad sharks. There are often very bad sharks in the water that they need to take care of so that they can protect the fish that they are fishing. And this is their way of storytelling. Now, one way of me helping the children could be to give them other options, right? Sure, one way is to shoot the shark. What are some other options, right? Could we turn our stick into an oar and just paddle as quickly as we can, get away from the shark? Could we have a conversation with the shark, right? It's all pretend play. So yes, we can have a conversation with the shark and ask them first if they're a good shark or a bad shark. See what they're up to, and then determine what our course of action might be depending on what the shark is going to be. So when you involve yourself in the play, and I am not suggesting taking over. I am not suggesting, well, instead of this, we could this. But be a piece of it and be an active member of the playing. Now, a lot of this has to do with context, right? So when if we are allowing weapon play in preschool, what does it mean for all of the children in our care? So what does it mean for not just the children playing, but for all of the children? And then what does that mean for our surrounding community? And I want to say that this is where I have the largest bumping up against, where my instincts might be that I just want to have that protective bubble. We're in a nature school, and I don't want outside influences to interfere. But like I said, unfortunately, gun violence is an inescapable reality in our country right now. And this can be triggering for adults, for the teachers, for the parents, right? And so for me, one, this becomes even further reason not to ban gunplay. Because if we're looking at pretend play as a way of children making sense of the world around them and trying on roles and playing it out, then I want to be there to help them with their processing. I want to know what they're thinking, what's going on in their little brains, right? And they're not going to verbalize all of this and say, well, Nicole, I'm afraid of this and this because I saw this on the news. They are going to do it through their pretend play and their storytelling. And so if I ban it, one of two things is going to happen. One is going to be an unsuccessful ban, and it's going to happen underground, right? You're going to cause a problem either where you're constantly saying no, or the children are going to do it behind your back, or it's a successful ban and they don't do it. Either way, whether they're doing it behind your back or whether they're not doing, you've now missed your opportunity to help them with this processing. Now, we do have parameters around our gunplay that make it feel safer for everyone around. And that is, one, you cannot point your gun at another person. And frankly, that is just a normal safety rule for sticks anyway. I do not want you waving your stick in somebody else's face, because whether or not that's a gun, it is not safe. Two, they cannot conscript anybody else in their play, right? So you have the children who want to be the spies, right? We're spying on the other people. We are never spies. We are never spies. If people are playing the game, they are playing the game with you, and you have explicitly asked them, do you want to be part of this weapon play, this spy game, whatever game it is? This is an explicit yes. We have said that they want to be involved. And then again, close supervision of the play. This is not something that happens far away from the teacher. And again, that has to do with weapon play, but it also has to do with just they've got a stick in their hands and we want to be safe. And then I do open up discussion with children about real guns. Real guns kind of scare me. How are you feeling about real guns? I've never, and they might say, they don't scare me because I'm hunting and my dad is showing me, the safe way to use them. And that's valid, right? But we're having those discussions, and this is an opportunity for it. And I do think that it is important, especially if you are not in this protected rural area, to talk to children about the outside world, right? We can do pretend gunplay here at Wildwood Nature School because it is safe to do it here. If you are out on the playground, if you are out on the street in front of your urban household, I want you to understand that I want you to get the gunplay out here and not do it in a place where it might be mistaken for something real. And so you do want to have these conversations with children. And that might bring up my one caveat. My one caveat to whether or not you decide to allow gunplay, it's you need to know the group of your children and whether or not they have been personally affected by gunplay, which will change the safety parameters, because we're not just looking at physical safety, but emotional safety. And that's a personal decision. I know that Kisa Marks, who teaches in an urban area in Chicago, who has written the book Rethinking Weapon Play, allows weapon play in her situation because she feels like it is a form of play and that there's too much that we are taking away from her particular group of children, which is Black children. And wanting to have, again, that safe place where they are allowed to be children and allowed to play. And I'm going to say this is a decision that you need to make based on the context of your preschool and what's going on and what has affected and how has affected and how you feel is the most effective way for you to help them. And then once you've set that up, once you've set your parameters, you need to be prepared to talk to parents about this because many parents are going into a preschool with the assumption that weapon play is going to be banned and with the assumption that there are good reasons to ban weapon play and they might be triggered and afraid of the weapon play. So be prepared. Know the research on there's no causal link between this play in early childhood and later developing violent tendencies, and know the research on how important pretend play is for children and what they are learning through this and what you are doing as an adult to make sure that this is a safe situation for their children. Um, and I have had actually 2 conversations with parents in that past spring area time. And both parents left with a clear understanding of, okay, I understand why Nicole is allowing this. And yes, I still have fears. And we know that no one's handing out actual toy guns for any to play with. It's sticks. Um, and, understanding why we might want to leave this out in the open so that we can talk to children about their feelings about it. So just to recap, you know, if you get nothing else out of this, for most of the time, for most children, gunplay is not about aggression and violence. It is about storytelling. It is about social emotional development. It is about resilience in pretend play. And then take a breath, look at it through a child's view, and set your parameters that match what the children in your program need. Let me know how it goes. As always, I know that I've opened up a can of worms, so feel free to comment under the video. Feel free to get in touch with me privately by replying to a newsletter, by um, messaging me individually through Instagram, through Facebook. And then join me here next week for another episode of Wildwood Teaching. I will see you there.